we are going back to Toronto, tied 2-2 in the series as the Raptors, more or less Kawhi Leonard, but the Raptors come away with the 101-96 victory in the game in Philly today. Now, yesterday we heard Pascal Siakam doubtful, and we're like, really? Well, as long as we were nervous enough, this adds another blow to that. Now, he does play in the game. He doesn't play very well, but he does play. And then we hear today the referees, Mark Davis and Tony Brothers. And you're in Philly. Recipe for disaster for Raptor fans. But you can tell early on in this ball game that the Raptors were not going to take anything lightly. They were going right at Philly. The Raptors were actually +3 in the first quarter. And yes, they were only -1 in the second quarter. So you're still up by 2 at the break. Now, ideally, it's only 2 points, and there's still a lot of ball to play. But for the Toronto Raptors, you had to contain one certain guy. And look, I love the guy as a player, but as the way he acts, kind of childish. Because the process himself, Joel Embiid, you saw him in the last game, right? Throws out on that windmill, like, yeah, he's an airplane now. Where was that airplane today? Yeah, it was in the hangar. You know why? Because he was nowhere to be found. Joel Embiid played a horrendous game. 11 points, 8 rebounds, 7 assists. Yeah, I get it. Well, he had 8 rebounds and 7 assists. Yeah, that's like saying Kyle Lowry had 0 points in game 1 of the playoffs. But he did have like 7 rebounds and 6 assists or whatever the hell it was. Does not matter. He shot 2 of 7. And look, he was 7 of 10 from the free throw line. But the problem with those 3 misses were, at the time, he had 4 straight free throw attempts, right? He had 2. Then the Raptors came down the floor, missed a shot. Then they came down again, fouled again. He's going to the line once again. He misses 3 straight and only gets that 3-point deficit down to 2, where they could have taken the lead. In the big moment, the big fella wasn't there. Now, talking about people who were there in the big moments. Up by 1. Just over a minute to play in the game. Kawhi Leonard, off a screen, I think, who set the screen? Was it Lowry or was it Gasol? On Ben Simmons. They switch on to Embiid. Simmons get off the screen, and Kawhi takes a fading 3 with the minute left, shot clock down, knocks it in as the buzzer expires on the shot clock, and the Raptors go up by 4 with just a minute left, and they do not look back from there as they come away with the victory. Yes, I get it. You know, the bench didn't really do a whole lot today. So, look, Serge Ibaka was the only positive thing off the bench today. But in the end, guys, and I know I can speak for every Raptor fan when I say this, but there's going to be Raptor fans saying, well, it's great that we won, but the bench still didn't do anything. Basketball and sports in general, especially basketball, is a make it or miss it league. The Raptors got more points than the 76ers today. And they won. Playoffs. There's no moral victory when it comes to the playoffs. There's no, well, this guy had a good game, but you lost in the playoffs. Don't matter. We weren't talking about Kawhi Leonard dominating game, doing an amazing performance in game 3. You know what we were talking about? The lack of help that he had. But today, the Raptors come away with the win. They regained their home court advantage, which I think a lot of people were questioning after the last game we played. But watching this team perform defensively, remarkable. And you saw some guys wake up a little bit. Look, Pascal had 9 points and 3 boards, a couple dimes on 2 of 10 shooting. At one point, he was 0 of 8. He had a really tough time shooting. He was 0 of 4 from 3. Look, that calf is still bugging him, clearly. But he's playing through it, and he only played 29 minutes, and I applaud Nick Nurse for playing him only 29 minutes because of the injury. So what does that mean? You play Ibaka more. And Ibaka, I understand he hasn't had a great playoffs, and I get it that, against Joel Embiid, he hasn't been the greatest, but Ibaka was climbing the glass today, grabbing rebounds, fighting, got a couple huge blocks in the game, and he had 12 points. He was 12 points, 9 rebounds on 6 of 12 shooting. He had 3 blocks in the game. Ibaka was big off the bench, and more or less, yes, Kawhi Leonard played how many minutes? 43. Ladies and gentlemen, it was only 48 minutes in a basketball game. He was off for 5 minutes. But you know what? This is what load management was all about. So he can do this and not get overwhelmed. You had Marc Gasol, who had a fantastic ball game today. 16 points, 5 rebounds, 3 assists, 7 of 13 shooting. He's 2 of 7 from. He took 7 threes, which is quite a bit. But again, he made 2 of them. He was 2 of 7 from 3. He was a plus 13 on the floor, and his defense against Joel Embiid was pretty damn solid, if you ask me. Lowry, in the early goings of the game, the driving force of the offense. He had 14 points, 6 rebounds, 6 assists, 6 of 13 shooting. 2 of 6 from 3, plus 11 on the floor. Danny Green got 11 in the ball game today. And we talked about Ibaka. Look, we talked about in the last game. Look, I think it was Danny Green, Pascal, and Kawhi Leonard. The only guys who were really in double digits in the starting unit and really in the entire game. But what you saw today is not only Kawhi Leonard dominating at 39 points, 14 rebounds, 5 assists on 13 of 20 shooting, 8 of 12 from the line, 5 of 7 from 3, and he was a plus 7 on the floor. He gave you that defensive aspect. Look, let's go to a play late in the ball game, right? I know you guys probably remember the one where when Jimmy Butler drove on Kawhi, and Kawhi just kind of grabbed the ball, threw it around his head, and picked it up with the other hand. They called it a foul. Clearly it wasn't. And I'm thinking to myself, Defensive Player of the Year. Any reputation call? No. No reputation call for Kawhi Leonard on that play. But you know what? It doesn't matter. Because the Raptors win. And they get the job done. It was their fourth quarter defense that really solidified this win by the Toronto Raptors. Look, they came out in the second half really sluggish. 3 turnovers within the first few minutes of the third quarter. And at one point, you're down by 6. They were leading by 2 at the break. And at one point, you're down 6, and we're like, man, what the heck's happening? You can't let this get away from you. And Kawhi turned on some crazy gear. Then the Raptors thought, you know what, let's just drive on Greg Monroe because he's not quick. They do that. They get a couple fouls on Greg Monroe. He gets angry. They give him a tech. And the Raptors claw back into the game, and then it's a back and forth game until the dying minutes of the game where the Raptors kind of play hard, solid defense and come away with the victory. All right? We can talk about the negatives from this game, but I don't care. Because the playoffs are about wins and losses. They're not about individual performances. And like I said earlier, moral victories. I don't give a darn about those. Look, if we saw this in a regular season game against the New York Knicks, then I'd be like, yeah, that's a problem. But this is a playoff game against Philly, in Philly. Mark Davis, Tony Brothers as the referees. Siakam, clearly not 100%. And you find a way to grind and get the victory in Philly, regaining home court, and then coming back home for Game 5, looking to take a 3-2 series lead. I mean, it was an absolutely massive ball game for the Raptors there today. They shoot 46% from the field. They knocked down 10 threes on 32%. The free throws were amazing for the Toronto Raptors. 21 for 26 for 81% at the line. Rebounds were dead even at 43 apiece. The offensive glass was 11-8 in favor of the 76ers, but we've seen over the first few games of this series, those rebounds have been so lopsided, it's been crazy. But I think what Nick Nurse, the coaching staff, and the Raptors themselves, of course, went into today's game thinking, we are going to crash the glass and play hard on the get a lot of rebounds here. Because you saw today, Kawhi had a double-double. He had 14 of them. Gasol had 5. Lowry had 6. Ibaka had 9. I mean, a lot of big rebounding numbers for the guys today. Look, yeah, Jimmy Butler, Jimmy Buckets had 29 and 11. He's a great player. Tobias Harris shot 7 for 23. That's horrendous. But we talk about it. You need that next man up. You need that defensive mentality. And we've talked about it all series long. Well, more or less, I guess not all series long, but we talked about it in the preview. We talked about it in the Game 1 recap. The Raptors are the better defensive team. But, as I said earlier, it's a make it or miss it game. And in Game 2 and Game 3 of the series, the Raptors missed a lot of shots, a lot of good looks. Today, look, they weren't their best on the offense. They did have quite a few wide open looks. Siakam had a ton of wide open shots, and he missed all 4 threes in the first half. I don't think he took one the rest of the way. But you made it happen. You got the job done on the defensive end. You made everything difficult. And that's what this Raptor team is so good at, and that is why they evened up the series at 2 games apiece today, all right? So Game 5 at Scotiabank Arena. We talked about in the last video about this game today being one of the biggest games in franchise history. I mean, you could say that, right? I mean, there's some other games out there. You can talk about that Game 7 against Philly way back in the day. That could have been the biggest game in franchise history. But in the modern era for Raptor fans, the guys who have come over since the whole DeMar DeRozan era, this game was... It's arguably the biggest game of all time. You can say one of the games against LeBron James was the biggest game, but today, you lose that game. You go down 3-1, and I understand you're coming back home for 1, then you have a possible 2 games at home if you force Game 7. But do you really want to risk yourself going down 3-1 and having to win 3 straight games? No. So they went out there today, they played hard, they fought, and they came away with the victory, all right? So, guys, Game 5 of the Eastern Conference semifinals against the Philadelphia 76ers goes at Scotiabank Arena on Tuesday night, 8 p.m. tip-off, all right? And you hear the quote. You hear the quote you were never supposed to worry in a series until you lose a home game. Now, the Raptors, they lost their first home game, the second game of the series, but we didn't really know what to expect from that. The fact that this team won today in Philly, that probably put a lot of doubt in Sixers fans' heads. I mean, look, it's all over the place, right? Game 1, we're thinking we dominated. And with Philly, we're like, they're probably thinking, oh my God, this Raptor team played really well. This is going to be a tough series. Game 2, they barely beat us, but they're like, hey, we got a 1-1 series, come back home. We're positive. And they crush us at home. Us as Raptor fans are thinking, what the hell is going on? Nobody's playing well. This is ridiculous. Kawhi needs help. Let's get something going here. And then Sixers fans are like, we got this series. We're going to win in 5, or we're going to win in 6, or whatever. And then you see today, the Raptors get the scrappy, grinded out victory on the road. The mentalities, I wouldn't say have totally flipped, but the mindsets are a little different now for both teams. It's a crazy series. It's kind of what we expected, in a 2 versus 3 matchup, in the Eastern Conference. Milwaukee and Boston is going to be a grind-out series. It's going to be a fun rest of the series where we're all going to be stressed out like all craziness. But for Raptor fans, enjoy this victory. Enjoy that big shot from Kawhi Leonard with a minute left, because you know I am. Big win for the Raptors. Like I said, Game 5 goes on Tuesday night at 8 o'clock at Scotiabank Arena, all right? So you know what, guys? That is going to do it for this one. You guys enjoy the victory today and the video. Smack that like button to appreciate that. Hit the subscribe button if you guys have not already. Comment down below your thoughts on the video, the game. What do you think of Kawhi Leonard? Also the supporting cast. What were your thoughts on Lowry? What do you think of Serge Ibaka? Also, Marc Gasol, Danny Green. What were your thoughts on those guys? Look, Danny Green didn't shoot the ball very well, but he had a lot of free throws in the game. Again, taking the ball like Greg Monroe. I think he had 4 free throws in that play, and it was a great job by Danny Green there. But I want to hear your guys' thoughts on everything towards Raptors there today. The good, the bad, the ugly. And if you're going to sit here and talk negative stuff about the Raptors and you're a Raptor fan, what are you doing? You just won a big playoff game against the Sixers. Who cares if it was scrappy? You won the game. Enjoy it, because you know I am. All right, so guys, Evan and I will talk to you guys podcast edition. It's going to be either Wednesday or Thursday. We're not too sure as of yet when that'll be uploaded. Link is in the description, though, for the podcast channel and for the podcast itself on iTunes. Twitter is also down below. Follow up, send me a DM, and do all that great stuff. And I'll talk to you guys Jay's edition a little bit, not too far from now, as they got smoked in the finale against Texas Rangers 10-2. But we'll just, whatever. Let's just get through that and get over that. And then for the Raptors, like we talked about, Game 5 of the Eastern Conference semifinals against the Philadelphia 76ers goes back to Toronto, to Scotiabank Arena. 8 p.m. tip-off there this Tuesday, May 7th. Big game for the Toronto Raptors, all right? Like I said, on Tuesday night at 8 o'clock. I'm excited. I know you guys are. Thank you guys so much for listening and watching. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. We'll talk to you guys then.